Yeah.
This is Donna, and I'd like to welcome you to another amazing episode of You Were Designed for Greatness. I am always excited to share the amazing women's stories that I meet in my encounters all around the world. And so today I would like to welcome Doreen. Doreen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Donna. It was a pleasure meeting you and hosting you on my podcast, Find Your Voice, Change Your Life.
Yes. So there is, if you're looking for a podcast, we will mention it again and we will put it in the show notes as well. So Doreen, where do you find yourself in the world?
Well, in the world, it depends on what we
okay,
say.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
Well, my home is in Northern California, just about 20 minutes north of San Francisco. And right outside my window is, for those who might be familiar with the area, is Mount Tamalpais. And I have redwood groves right out my front door. And so I love nature. And it's just such a pleasure to be so close to the earth and to be able to walk amongst those ancient trees.
That's one of my goals, is to see the big redwood forest. I have not yet been there. So,
well, you have you have somebody who will welcome you when you come.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. So, you have a podcast and your mission is helping people to find their authentic voice. And it is interesting that I've heard it said that whatever a coach's passion is usually something that they have had to overcome, are still learning how to overcome in some respects. And so I would take it if you acknowledge that that is true, that there was a time that you didn't have your authentic voice. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I would love to start there. And I'm a psychologist and I have a PhD from UC Berkeley in psychology, and started my practice and was pretty successful. I'd done some research and was asked to give a presentation at a conference, a psychology conference. And I told the organizer, not me, I am too afraid of speaking in public. And it was a moment, it was just like, do I say that out loud? It's something I hadn't quite been aware of, because you can just go through life and, avoid situations. And in psychology, my office only had one or two people. So it wasn't like I had a whole group of people and I'm trying to speak to them. So I was pretty comfortable doing research and having my private practice. But when I said that to the organizer, she, put her hands on her hips like this, and just, it was almost like, ooh, I could feel it right now. Like she just ripped the curtain, my professional degree right off of me and said, but doctor, isn't fear your business? And right.
Oh, yeah, that was a moment.
It was definitely, it's the one I remember most, because I think I pinpoint that moment when I, maybe I was just ready, Donna, maybe I was just ready to say, hello world. I know that I'm hiding behind all these degrees and all this academic research, and maybe I want more. And maybe, on some level, something was calling me that I didn't realize. And that woman, that organizer, was the catalyst, you might say, for me waking up and saying, yeah, I'm hiding.
Well, it's one thing to study it in a book. There's a whole nother thing to walk it out. Doing our academic and our quiet studies, but then when we have to actually, and we can teach this too, but when I have to actually do it, it's completely, it's, one of my coaches says, where the tongue in your mouth and the tongue in your shoe are going in the same direction.
Oh, that's a great quote. Lisa, yes, and your heart.
Let's and your heart.
In your heart.
Yeah, also. In your heart. Lisa Nichols says that. And I just love it. I have to remind myself of it all the time, because I say all the right things,
Uh-huh.
but is my feet and my heart going in the same direction? And so learning to be able to get that in alignment so that we're more authentic in all of that. So how did you get to where you are today? Did you just step into a magic booth and everything was better?
Well, my first venture, kind of thinking I could accomplish something, I joined a speakers bureau with the American Diabetes Association because I also, this must have been a real change moment in my life, but I had been diagnosed with diabetes
Mm,
and I was in my 40s and it was type 1, as it turns out. I wasn't juvenile diabetic, but it happened when I was in my 40s. So I thought, I didn't know I had all those symptoms. So let me be part of a speakers bureau and go learn how to do that. But um, at the last class where we were supposed to give our presentation, I didn't show up.
okay.
My fear stopped. So I said, this is something. You can't just step into learning how to be a speaker. Something else is going on inside of me that is just really scared. What is it? So yeah, I took my first class in San Francisco and it was called Overcome Your Fear of Public Speaking.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was frightening. But I think for anybody listening, it's that first step. It's brave, it's courageous, but finally stepping into a more vulnerable exposure, I think, is what happened. And I got a gift that night. The teacher said, and I think you'll relate to this. The teacher said, Michelangelo chiseled until he set the angel free. He saw the angel in the marble. And I felt
Mhm.
like all those degrees, all those
Mhm.
papers, all that research that was my marble. Hello, I'm a doctor, huh? and so I went, that's it. That's it. The angel, that's me. Somewhere in there, she's been hiding and she's so afraid to come out and she's so young and she's not a big psychologist like like the other one out there, other part of me that could stand and deliver. And so that was that journey to find my voice, I think, began with that class. And I just kept going back. I think maybe 6 months, every month I would go back to that class and I learned more and more and about myself and, just all the techniques, journaling. I took an improv class, just put myself in more vulnerable positions where I had to expose, and that's, I think, expose my fear. And there was finally something called Speaking Circles International that you take turns in front of the room.
Mhm.
Nobody could tell you how to do it, like stand straighter or use
Mhm.
vocal variety, nothing like Toastmasters, because I had done Toastmasters. I had gotten really good at giving speeches, but still hadn't found my voice, you might say. And it was just like you get applause just for being who you are, whatever that happens to be in the moment. Learning how to,
Mhm.
I'm taking a deep breath, drop down, feel the essence of who you are, the beingness of who you are, your presence, and being totally in within your moment, the now moment, and sharing that with a listener. You start to develop what I call the inner presence muscle. And that those groups, I think, was the beginning of me finding my voice. You have to, because she was buried way, way, way back early in my life, and I had to go way, way back and do a deep dive.
I suspected it started early in our life when we begin to be told different things about being quiet. Um, at least that was for me. Um, and also what was okay to speak and what wasn't. And so sometimes the way you felt wasn't okay to speak. And for me, did you experience something like that?
Yes, my mother was bipolar and was in and out of the hospital. So my sister and I stayed with my grandma. And
Mhm.
when mom came back, my grandma would say, just like you said, shh, your mom's going to get sick. Shh, she's going to go back to the hospital. So the shushing, I think, was
Yep.
a moment where you just get really scared because something devastating, your mom is going to get
And
sick.
and without realizing it, the grandmother put the responsibility of you being too vocal or too rowdy or too being too much of a child as if that was the causative of
Yes.
your mother being sick. And one plus that does not equal two in that situation is, but parents, we hear things as child like that, and it shuts down parts of us, and we don't even realize that how uh, to discover what our voice even sounds like, because it's been
Right.
so mute for so long.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, two phrases I use to that part that I left behind. It's like it's an exiled part, or I abandoned it because, hey, I went out, obviously, how many years did it take? I was getting A's and,
Mhm.
developing myself and being a professional. And, but the little one, the little girl, where I feel like, people just don't see that that's your precious spirit, was where your power is, the part that you left behind. And sure, I developed a lot of skills, but I think you need to bring both together. The
Yes.
little one that you left behind, who's really vulnerable and precious, and help her feel like she's got power, as well as the one that knows how to make speeches and get on a stage,
Yeah.
and do the right kind of
Because
thing.
it's all part of us, and it's learning to bring things that were separated to wholeness. So
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
yes,
Things that parts of us that were separated, yes, and bring them into wholeness.
yeah,
Yeah, I love your title, The Vibrant Living, because that to me represents that sense of when you are connected into wholeness, that there's
yeah,
just a certain vibrancy. And I think that your voice also, if it's coming from a deeper sense inside of yourself, it has a vibrance and a radiance, right?
well, I understand you have a book recently. Tell me about that.
Yes, actually, it was a book I wrote earlier about my experience, and uh, what I've done is to update it,
Okay.
and it represents more of what I teach now. It isn't just about overcoming the fear of public speaking. It's about finding the essence of who you are. And that's why I call it essential speaking. And I have 7 secrets that I've designed because I feel like it's not about vocal variety or
Yeah.
eye contact or
Right.
making a good beginning, middle, end, have humor, storytelling, all those kind of, definitely, tips and tricks and techniques are all important. But if your essence isn't showing up, your pure essence is not showing up, then the speaking does not have as much, well, one of your words, vibrance.
Yes.
And so that's what I
When
would.
I think of your book and I listen to your podcast, and then we've had several conversations, it, you know, perhaps 90% of the people listening to my podcast will never feel like they will be a public speaker. But what we don't realize is that when we're in the parent teachers conference and we don't say what we really think, when we're in the boardroom meeting and you have a good idea, you don't share it. Um, all of these places where we withdraw instead of be authentically us. And to me, finding your voice affects your marriage, it affects relationships, it affects every area of our life, even if I might never, and I do take stages, but not everyone will
Yeah.
be on a stage. And so I want the listeners to realize the expansiveness of this topic is so much more than what we used to call speech in school. This is getting you in alignment, in wholeness, in peace, in finding be able to share your ideas with passion. So that's why I love this topic, in being able to share your book with 7 secrets to help us to do all of this. Sounds like a wonderful, and I haven't read it yet. So, but that's what I see in it all. Do you agree?
Oh, Donna, I so appreciate your articulating exactly the whole purpose. I do not care if anybody ever gets on a
Right,
stage, a literal stage with a
right,
microphone
right,
in front of them,
right.
because life is a stage.
Yes,
And I think that even the way we talk to ourselves, in a way, we've taken in public, what the public thinks about us. So in a way,
absolutely.
it's public speaking. So I don't think I've ever heard anybody as clearly feed back to me the point. So I so appreciate how you captured the essence of what I am bringing to the world, because I'm not a public speaking coach. And so, but what kind of coach am I?
Right.
It's like that. Well, I'm a psychologist and I can help you break through fear speaking. I love the word you used, withdraw, because people do withdraw
Yes.
from all sorts of situations. And I have to say that people who have worked with me have said things like, after working with you, my partner feels like I'm such a better listener. And
Yep.
isn't that weird that I'm teaching people about speaking, but it's really about a way of being?
Yes, it is, because when I've withdrawn, I'm no longer listening. I'm thinking about me.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
am concerned about my safety in some form. So when
Yes.
I withdraw from a conversation, I'm not really listening. I am protecting. The
Yes.
walls have begun to arise and I'm not hearing anymore. So that's why I said affect marriages and relationships and everything, is when we can begin to really know who we are and be able to be in love with that, with all of our quirks and all of the places where we may have failed and all of those things. To me, that is what I love about what you do, because it is, I do it a little differently, but we're both doing something similar, is helping people to step out of fear and into their authentic self and into faith.
Well,
So
no
how?
wonder. No wonder, yes, that you understand, because
Yes.
we both come from situations that we've integrated into our teachings and our offering. I want to just say something about the
Mhm.
7 secrets. The first secret is be still, be
Mhm.
silent. And every single one of my 7 secrets starts with be. And it's not about speaking, it's about being. And that's one of the points I wanted to make right now.
I love that. I love that, because be still is something that I have integrated in my life, especially the last 3 years, and watching. No, I guess it started before COVID, so it's probably going on longer than that. But how much stillness produces. And so anyway, I love that. How can they get a hold of you? Find out more about you and your book.
Well, let's see. I think my website has everything. It has the links to Amazon. And so the website is essentialspeaking.com and essentialspeaking.com. And that's because
We'll put that in the show notes as well.
yeah,
So
we're talking about the essence and speaking from the essence of who you are.
yes. Thank you, Doreen, so much for coming and sharing today.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Donna.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for being a faithful listener to this podcast. Thank you for sharing it and leaving a review so that we can reach more people, reach more women with inspiration, helping them to be authentically who they are and to live vibrantly. I would love to support you in any way I can. You can always reach out to me, ask me any question that you have on your mind. And so we will put the link in the show notes for a conversation with me if you would love to. And until next time, this is Donna saying live and love vibrantly. Bye for now.